Are you an entrepreneur who believes that your fitness has nothing to do with your finances? And that as long as you have the right marketing, as long as you have the right strategy, your fitness is irrelevant? If that sounds like you, listen up, because in today's episode of The Wealth Brand, I'm going to show you exactly why your fitness isn't just about health, but also how the condition of the body shapes your ability to lead effectively and build the wealth you desire. If we're being honest with ourselves, we have a big problem with entrepreneurs and business professionals being out of shape. Not to mention that majority of society is already out of shape, right? So for that reason alone, I feel as leaders, as business professionals, it is up to us to set the standard and model the standard for what it means to be in shape. Because when you think about it, people spend about 50% of their time on their jobs, 50% of their lives on their jobs, at work. That is a lot of time to be spending away from your family. So as leaders, we have a responsibility for the habits, the mindset, the standards that people bring home to their family, right? Because these aren't just standards that they just have at work and then they're gone and forgotten when they go home. But these are things that they're passing down to their kids. They're passing to their spouse. So you being in shape isn't about just having abs and saying, look at me, showing everybody how strong you are, how much weight you have lost. It's much bigger than you, right? Because the standards that you live by can change the trajectory of someone else's family, right? Now in business, your fitness just isn't a health problem. It's not something that just affects your health, but it also affects your money too. And we already have enough challenges that can be working against us in business, right? Because business can easily be seen as scammy, as selfish. When you decide to be an entrepreneur, it can be seen as money hungry, meaning all you care about is money, which is not true. Yes, you want to earn money for the services that you provide, just like everybody else. Money is important, it's just not most important. And if you ask most entrepreneurs, they'll say the exact same thing. Because I can think of at least 10 things, 20 things that's more important than money. Way more important, right? But I think it's funny how the people who don't have money are always the ones that's scared to talk about money. They're always the ones that have the most opinion about money. It's just like people who are out of shape. The people who are out of shape are always the first ones to run to the comments to call somebody out for being on steroids. But guess what? When you're in shape, you don't care, right? But I believe the reason that they do that is because they're looking for an excuse to not get in the best shape of their lives. They're looking for a reason to continue living at that low standard. Same thing goes with money. Because you have a bad relationship with money, because you have poor thinking toward money, you look for an excuse to stay the victim. Because you aren't making the money that you want to make, now you got to place blame on somebody else who is making the money that you want to make. And you have to blame them because you can't blame yourself. You can't do that. Right? But anyway, I'm reading this book called Thou Shalt Prosper by Daniel Rabbi Lapin. And we already know that the Jewish community is known for being great with money. They're known for building great businesses. And in this book, he breaks down why they are so successful. Now, I'm not finished with the book, but I believe he has highlighted two major points that I believe are worth mentioning. Number one, the Jews have a deep-rooted belief that to gain profit and wealth is not only good, but it is inherently moral, right? It is like a moral right for them to gain wealth, right? And to enter a path of seeking profit. And I believe when you change your beliefs about money for the better, you change your ability to make more of it. You don't make more money just because you want to make more money. It doesn't work that way. But I believe when you change your intention behind why you want to make more money, and when that intention is moral, ethical, and good, that's when you have the ability to make more money. And the Jews, they believe that, right? He said that selling, they view selling as helping. They view selling as serving. And I believe that's two major beliefs to adopt as an entrepreneur. Number one, the quest for profit and wealth is good. That's a strong belief to have. But it's only good because selling is helping. Now, that's another strong belief to have. And because they believe that, they thrive in business. They thrive at building wealth. Now, most people, they don't have that belief. And he talks about this in the book. Most people have the idea that money is evil. Whether you believe it subconsciously or whether you believe it consciously. They believe you have to do bad things in order to get profit. You have to do bad things in order to make a lot of money, which is not true, right? But he believes that this idea has come that business and money is evil has been a narrative that has been fed to us by society. That money means corruption. That profit and wealth is something that you shouldn't go after. And he says this narrative has been taught in the education system, in the school system, right? In the media and entertainment, church and religion. And it's not that these messages are very obvious and broadcasted, obviously, right? But these are very subtle messages. Like, for instance, going to the movies and watching a movie where the businessman who is rich is laundering money and now taken down by the middle-class hero. That is a subtle message that is being trained into our subconscious. The church subtly teaching lack, suffering, poverty versus abundance, prosperity, with the heavy emphasis of morality over everything. These are messages that are training our subconscious, right? And this is part of the reason that people don't like sales. This is part of the reason that people don't want to enter into entrepreneurship and into business, because they're trained to see that selling is scheming, that the only way you get a sale is to scheme people and scam people and trick people, right? Versus helping them solve a legitimate problem that they have. So I say all that to say, there's enough challenges already with being an entrepreneur in business. So why make it more challenging on yourself by being out of shape? Why lose money because you aren't controlling the one thing that you can control? The thing that will help you to make the most money or even more money, become a better leader, and serve people at the highest level. Oh, but you think because if you just work harder, if you just run yourself into the ground, you can be an effective leader and still get the business to where you want it to go. But let me tell you something. It doesn't work that way, right? The business can only go as far as the capacity of the one that's actually building the business. What do I mean? You can want to bench 225 pounds all day long. But if you ain't built the muscle to be able to lift 225 pounds, guess what? It ain't happening. It's not, right? But I want you to understand something. Like, the best benefit that you can get from fitness and business is trust. Because when you're in shape, your fitness communicates three things. Number one, that you have a standard. Number two, that you have self-respect, and that you can keep your word to yourself consistently. Consistently meaning over an extended period of time. And all those things are signals of trust. Every business is built on trust. Every single one. No transaction happens without the other person trusting that you're going to get them or help them get the result that they want. So before you ask anyone to buy something from you, before they listen to your pitch, right? People have this subconscious thing that's happening, right? They are looking and trying to identify, can I trust this person? If you are a person that can be trusted. So if people are looking for that trust, we as business professionals, we as entrepreneurs have to identify, like, what is the best way to communicate that trust? And the best way to communicate it is through the body. And again, this is not about having abs. It's not about having muscle. Nobody cares. It's about looking like what you want to represent, right? It's about having the look that represents something. You know, Stephen Covey, who's the author of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right? He has this quote that says, nothing has more influence than the reputation of trust. And he's right. Like, most people misunderstand trust. They think trust can be built verbally. If I just tell them we're the best, then they'll believe me. They have to. If I just tell them that we have great customer service, if I just put all of these words on my website, they have to believe me. They have to trust because it's on the website. Trust doesn't start verbally, but it starts visually. It starts with your body. It starts with your energy, your posture, your presence. Like, it's not something that people decide logically, right? But trust is something that is typically felt first, then is validated logically, right? Your energy sends a level of trust. And whether you like it or not, whether you agree with it or not, it doesn't matter because it's human nature. I want you to imagine this. Imagine you want to lose weight, right? So you go into a gym to get a personal trainer and they ask you, which trainer do you want to train with? They both have the same certifications. They have the same years of experience. The only difference is one is clearly out of shape and the other one looks like he or she could be on a magazine. Who do you trust? You're going with the one that's in shape, right? Same thing. Like, what if you need a lawyer and one person comes dressed in street clothes, look like they just left the club, right? And another guy comes up with a tailored suit, briefcase, look like they have their stuff together. Who are you choosing to represent you in that moment? You're going with the guy in the suit because he looks more put together. It's not rocket science. Business works the same exact way. When you look sloppy, there is an assumption that your thinking, that your execution, that your business is also sloppy too. Again, what you can like it or you cannot like it. It's human nature, it's human psychology. So let me show you how trust works in business. I'm gonna pull out my iPad, do a little demonstration, right? So the Navy SEALs was asked a question by Simon Sinek. How do you choose somebody for SEAL Team 6? Now, SEAL Team 6 is the most elite within the SEAL community. Right? It's not something you just walk onto. It's not something that you can just qualify for based off of your performance, but it's something that you have to be chosen for, right? So they said, how do you choose somebody? And the Navy SEAL, he drew a graph, right? And on this graph, he drew two things, or he wrote two things. He said, we decide by your performance and trust. So how you define those two is your performance is, can you do your job? Plain and simple. And trust is, can I trust you outside of the battlefield? Another way he defined it was, your performance is, can I trust you with my life? Your trust is, can I trust you with my money and my wife? Right? So he said, of course, nobody wants the person who has low performance and low trust. Nobody wants that person, but everybody wants the person that has high performance and high trust. But something that they found through their vetting services or through their vetting process was that the person who has high performance and low trust is typically a risk, right? And they would much rather have the person that have mid-level performance and high trust, or even the person that has low performance and high trust. They would much rather have those two people than the person with high trust and low trust and high performance, because they're considered a risk. The same thing goes in business, right? See, we spend so much time wanting to just be a high performer, wanting to just only focus on the job. Do I have my certifications? Am I good at my job? Can I close? Can I sell? Am I innovating? Am I marketing right? Focus everything only on the job, right? And ignore building trust within ourselves, right? For instance, like you said you were going to lose weight, but you didn't decide to go and lose weight. You said you were going to start going to the gym, but you didn't go to the gym. You said that you were going to start being a better leader in your business. You said you were going to start being a better husband, a better wife, a better spouse. but you didn't do those things. So now, because you said those things to yourself and you broke that trust within yourself, you think your business is going to be okay because you know how to do your job, right? We only focus on the performance of the job and ignore the trust. But let me tell you something, that you can never outperform low trust long term, because it would eventually kill your business. It would kill your influence. It would kill your leadership. It would kill everything in the business. And on top of that, it'd destroy your pockets. Financial freedom doesn't begin when you make more money, but financial freedom begins when someone keeps their word to themselves, when someone keeps their word when no one is watching, right? The trust that you have with yourself. Like, you can't have financial freedom without being the person that can carry the weight of financial freedom. You know, it's funny to me how the people who are bad with finances are always the first one to say, man, if I win the lottery, I'm buying this, I'm buying that. I'm taking care of this person, I'm taking care of that person. And in their mind, it's a great idea. But there is a reason that 70% of people who win the lottery go broke, because they haven't built the capacity to handle that much money. I mean, how are you going to be good with $5 million if you can't even manage $5, right? You have to build the capacity to carry the weight of your business. You have to build the capacity as a leader. You have to build the capacity as the one who is setting the standard within your business and the one who is driving the business forward. That's first. Business is built on trust, right? And your fitness is the best way to signal that trust. Next, we have your fitness determines your decision speed. Now, most people think bad decisions come from a lack of intelligence, but typically they don't. More times than not, they come from fatigue. They come from the person who doesn't have the energy. People who have more energy have the ability to make faster decisions than those who don't. It's not complicated. All business success is simply the decisions made by the person running it. What you focus on, what you decide to ignore, who you decide to hire, who you decide to fire, right? What you say no to, what you spend your energy, time, and effort on, right? Revenue doesn't just grow randomly. But when you make quality decisions in your business, you get paid. And guess what? When you don't make quality decisions in your business, you don't get paid, right? Here is something that most people don't think about when it comes to like the financial damage in their business. They think that like one big decision can destroy a business. So they put all this weight and effort in this one big decision. But it typically comes from like small decisions made poorly over time, over and over again. Poor decision, poor decision, poor decision, poor decision. Delaying the conversation. And it's the little things. Delaying the conversation, avoiding having the tough calls, waiting too long to pivot in your business. Take Blockbuster for an example. Most people think that Blockbuster failed because they didn't buy Netflix, right? But that's not true. Blockbuster failed because they had years of small decisions, of making poor small decisions, right? Netflix came to them in, I believe, the 2000s to buy their company for $50 million. The 2000s. And rumor has it that Blockbuster laughed Netflix out of the building. However, in 2007, they finally saw the shift start to happen and they finally started to implement something. And they launched their version of online DVD rentals called Total Access. Right? That was 7 years that they had to get their business right and to pivot and to make a different decision than what they were making. And Total Access, it had some success, but honestly, they were a little bit too late. It was the small decisions that killed their business because they kept prioritizing the profit and success they were having right now, right? They were protecting their brick and mortar stores when Netflix was creating something new in terms of you don't need a brick and mortar to watch movies and to rent movies and to rent games and all the other things, right? But none of those decisions in the moment felt like they would kill the business because we're doing good. But those small decisions, they compounded over time. And over 7 years, eventually took them down. That's why your fitness is important, because it increases the quality of the decisions that you make. And now it doesn't make decisions for you, but it improves the quality and your ability to make quality decisions. For example, like one of the best decisions you can make in your business is naming your price. Is how much you charge as an entrepreneur. Now, most entrepreneurs undercharge for their services, not because their product is not good, right? Not because their service is not good, but because they don't think they're good. Price is not just a number, but it's a reflection of what you believe your value is, what you believe about your value, right? So let me show you how price and value match up, right? I'm gonna pull out my iPad again. So what I'm drawing here is a tipping scale. Okay. And on one side, we have value. And on the other side, we have price. Okay. Now, the more energy, time, and effort you put in your value, right, the more the price goes up. So if we look at this tipping scale, if I'm constantly putting time into how I see myself as valuable and the value that I'm creating and the value that I'm holding for myself, as I put more time, energy, and effort into that, what happens is that tipping scale goes down on the value side, right? And as the tipping scale goes down on the value side, what happens to the price? The price goes up because now you see yourself as a valuable person, so you charge more for your services. Now, let's say you're somebody who all you care about is price. Nah, I don't care about price. I don't care about price. And the only thing that you want to focus on is your price, right? So when you're focused on your price, again, value is what sets the standard for your price. When you focus on your price and you're putting more time and energy and effort into your price, the only way you can charge more is by increasing your value. You cannot charge more if you don't increase your value. See, pricing is not just math, right? It's not a math problem, but it's a confidence problem. And confidence is not just a mindset issue, but it's a self-trust issue. That's why fit entrepreneurs charge more than those who are not fit. Not because they think they're better than everybody, but because they're more grounded in their identity. They're more grounded in who they are. People really underestimate how much your confidence affects your pricing in your business. Like, and you may try to convince yourself that, oh, my pricing is based on my market. My pricing is based on my product. Yeah, you can try to convince yourself of that, but at the core, your pricing, it comes down to your self-worth. Who do you see yourself as? How do you value yourself as a person? You can charge whatever you want, honestly, as long as you're getting the transformations and the transformation for people. But when you see your value go up, people pay $1,000 for a steak. You can get the same steak at a butcher shop or at Walmart or at a Tom Thumb or a Sprouts. You can get the same steak for $30, for $50. But people will go to a restaurant, and because it's good presentation, because there's status there, because it says that I am a certain type of person, people will pay $1,000 for a steak, right? But for the chef to be able to charge that steak, they must have a high level of value within what they're able to create as a chef. Fitness is the best way to build your self-worth, in my opinion. And for clarity, fitness doesn't make you rich, but it makes you reliable, right? Reliable in your decisions, reliable in your standards, reliable when things get tough, when things aren't going well. It gives you everything you need in the battle of business, right? And when you get your fitness right, everything else falls in line. But I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Wealth Brand. If you got value from this, please make sure you share this. Make sure you subscribe, and I will catch y'all in the next episode.